Welcome! Today we're diving into a really powerful training called Holy Separation. Now, this isn't about cutting people off in anger. Not at all. It's about creating a sacred, healthy space for yourself. We're going to walk through how to put practical boundaries in place so you can finally find some peace, especially in those high-conflict relationships that just drain you.
So let's start with a question that, honestly, gets right to the heart of why so many of us feel so stuck. Are you waiting for an apology that's just never going to come? You know that feeling. It's like you're holding your breath, just waiting for someone else to finally take accountability. That feeling is the invisible chain that keeps you from moving on.
And if you're experiencing these things, that deep emotional exhaustion, where your battery just feels like it's always in the red, or that fear that if you set a boundary, you'll end up totally alone, or maybe it's just that nagging lack of closure, like you're stuck in a story with the last chapter ripped out, I want you to know you are not alone. This is the incredibly high cost of waiting for someone else to write your ending.
So in this training, here's our game plan. We're going to walk through a clear, 5-step path to get you from that place of exhaustion to a place of real empowerment. We'll start with the high cost of waiting, then get into a core principle that will totally change your perspective. We'll talk about navigating that messy middle part of healing, learn how to give yourself closure, and finally, step into a brand new identity as a peacekeeper.
Okay, let's dive right into section 1, the high cost of waiting. Because before we can even talk about a solution, we have to get really honest about the problem. And that's the cycle of exhaustion that comes from waiting for something that might just never happen.
And, this isn't a passive thing. It's not just sitting around. It's an active, draining cycle. It's this constant loop of hope, then disappointment, and it keeps you emotionally tethered to the very person who hurt you, which means your own healing can never really truly begin.
All right, now for section 2. And I'm telling you, this is the core principle of this entire training. If you can get this one distinction, it can completely revolutionize how you approach these difficult relationships. And it's this: forgiveness is not access.
This slide lays it out perfectly. We so often mash these two concepts together, but they are totally separate. Look at the left. Forgiveness is something you do for you. It's an internal gift of peace that you give yourself. Now look at the right. Access, well, that's about them. That is a privilege they have to earn back through consistent, trustworthy behavior.
So let's just let that sink in for a second. The crucial point is that you can absolutely forgive someone for your own peace of mind, to let go of that weight, without giving them the privilege of access to your life, your time, or your energy. One does not automatically mean you have to give the other.
And this right here, this is a fundamental shift in thinking for so many of us. We feel this sense of obligation, right? Because of a shared history or because they're family. But this principle reframes the whole thing. Access isn't based on obligation. It's based on earned trust. Period. Okay, so in section 3, we're going to get real about the messy middle. Because once you start putting these principles into practice, it's not always a clean, straight line. It is definitely not always easy. This is just the reality of healing. And it is so important that we normalize this. Healing is not a perfect performance. You might feel raw. You are going to struggle. You might not forgive perfectly on the first or even 10th try. And that is not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you are wounded, not weak. Just moving from a place of shame to simply acknowledging, I am wounded, that's a huge step forward. This quote is brilliant. It warns us against one of the biggest traps in that messy middle: confusing history with loyalty. Just because you have a long shared past with someone does not mean you owe them your loyalty, especially if that loyalty means going right back into a dysfunctional dynamic that just rips open old wounds all over again.
Which brings us to the most practical, actionable part of our training. So if you can't get closure from them, how in the world do you move forward? Well, this is the tool you can use to reclaim your power.
This concept, self-administered closure, is absolutely transformative. It means you stop outsourcing your peace to someone else. It's an internal decision that you make for you based on the truth of the situation, and you don't need their participation at all. The power for closure shifts completely from them back to you.
So how do you actually do it? Well, you can achieve this by following these 4 empowering steps. First, and this one's tough, you accept the reality that they probably won't change. Second, you make a firm, internal decision to close this chapter for yourself. Third, you actively reclaim the power you gave them over your emotional state. And finally, you consciously choose your own freedom over staying stuck in the past.
And finally, in our last section, we'll see how this whole process leads to a new identity, becoming a fierce peacekeeper. This isn't just about learning a new skill. It's about a deep, lasting transformation in how you see yourself and your role in all of your relationships.
We're talking about moving away from that old, exhausting identity of always having to be the bigger person, which, let's be honest, often just means enabling bad behavior. Instead, you're stepping into this new identity, a fierce peacekeeper. And fierce doesn't mean aggressive. It means you are fiercely protective of your own peace. You start operating from a place of wisdom, not guilt or obligation.
And a key sign that you've really embraced this new identity is when you no longer feel that constant need to justify or explain your boundaries to people. It signals a really deep internal shift. It means you now value your healed self more than you value the approval of people who couldn't respect you in the first place.
This table just breaks it down so clearly. Healthy boundaries are not about revenge. They're not about bitterness. They are about clarity for you and for them. They are about protection for your heart and your mind. And ultimately, setting them is an act of profound wisdom.
So when you boil it all down, the most crucial takeaway from this entire training is that you are empowered to make this choice. You do not have to be defined by a painful history. You can choose peace. You can choose wisdom. That power is yours.
So as we close out, I really want to leave you with this final thought to carry with you. Because this isn't just theory, right? It's about making real, practical changes in your life. So ask yourself this: what is the very first piece of peace that you are going to reclaim for yourself?